Hello everyone and welcome back to Politics Now. We're talking about Hello everyone and welcome back to Politics Now. We're talking about modern Hello everyone and welcome back to Politics Now. We're talking about modern politics in modern America. And today, the polls are not looking good for Biden and they're actually looking pretty decent for Trump, which is only adding to the fact that 2024 will definitely be one of the most competitive races in American history even. So, yeah, let's get into that. So, Trump right now in the primary looks like he's going to win. He has a 41-point lead over DeSantis, which is his main opposition, and third place is controlled by someone who is an ally to him and is really shooting for a cabinet position. DeSantis keeps declining. He's kind of stagnating right now, but he's going to decline again and then stagnate. He's done this multiple times in the past 3 months, and it's probably going to continue. So, his main opposition is completely gone, and he's been declining and declining and declining. So now he's probably going to focus on focusing on the actual main campaign, the general. So he needs to go up against Biden, who also is looking like the nominee for the Democrats because RFK Jr., he's pulling well up, actually above DeSantis now, and that's pretty embarrassing for DeSantis because RFK was never expected to win. He might have won in like a fictional scenario where the Democrat Party isn't so behind Joe Biden and doesn't like populism, then yeah, maybe he could have won, but DeSantis, you're supposed to be the front runner. You still have a decent backing behind you where pretty much every part of the establishment is backing you against Trump. And you're somehow pulling lower than someone who was expected to lose in the first place. RFK Jr. was never meant to win. He was never going to win. And if you're pulling below him, there's clearly something wrong with your campaign. So DeSantis is likely to go to single digits. Trump is just keeps soaring up. He's polling in 62 on some polls now, where about a year ago he was only polling in 40 or 50. Now he's polling in the 60s, so he's likely to win the nomination. It's not really going to change the 41-point difference that he has on DeSantis now. So he is going to win big. And now that he gets the nomination out of the way, he needs to focus on the general. And the general is going to be against Joe Biden since his competition really isn't doing that much against him. And he's polling at around 60%. Uh, on a bad day, he might be polling at around high 50s, but he's still going to get the nomination. There's no real doubts that Joe Biden can't get the Democrat nomination. And Trump, he's actually doing pretty well since he's polling at around Joe Biden numbers, and Joe Biden is pretty much 100% guaranteed to win the nomination. So, Trump polling there, he's also pretty much guaranteed to win the nomination. And after the nomination, he's got to focus on the general, he's got to focus on his campaign against Biden, and looking at the polls right now, they are not going too well. Let's start with Republican voters. If he can get a lot of Republican voters out, that would be extremely good, especially in a lot of these swing states where a lot of the Republican voters are that white working class base that Trump has a very unique grasp on. And he's the most well liked out of all of the Republicans currently in the primary. And DeSantis is polling at 64%. Trump is at 75%. And a lot of these candidates, a lot of their people are unsure, or they're Chris Christie, where no one likes him. But Trump has the least amount of unsure peoples. They're either the 22% that don't like him, or they're the majority that actually like him. And considering how you have a 3/4 majority for your favorability, you're doing pretty well, and you pretty much got the Republican base on. And once the primary is over, you're likely to have a large majority of them, and you're not going to have too many people who just sit it out because they don't want to vote for you. So you got your Republican base done, and now you got to win over independents, and you got to win that popular vote because Republicans, they haven't won the popular vote since 2004, and that's not good. If we can't even win the popular vote, how are we going to win the general election anytime? And we really need to focus on winning the popular vote so we can win the presidency. and a lot of these other races. And looking at the popular vote, uh, Biden, you're not doing too well. Trump is actually narrowing the margin even more than he was in 2016 or 2020.
Given the fact that Biden is only polling at 1 point where he should be polling a lot better, he was polling well decent amounts during the 2020 election, and even during then, where he was polling at fairly good amounts. I mean, it was enough that he had a decent shot at winning the presidency, and he did win, but still, he was polling at 7 points, which, good enough. It got him to victory, and if that's the amount of points that he needs to win an election, then yeah, it serves him good. So he won the election on 7 points. Now he's at 1 point. He's 6 points below where he was when the election started, which he barely won in a lot of these swing states. So if he's losing by that much compared to his 2020 campaign, and he doesn't really have a lot of things going for him, he mostly has stuff going against him. How is he? How is he going to win in a lot of these swings, which Biden isn't very popular in, and Biden barely won in 2020, which, by the way, a lot of them are in the Midwest, and Trump has a very unique presence in the Midwest because he does have that white working class voter base, which does help him in elections. So if he's pulling on that base in the elections, then Biden doesn't really have an equivalent, and he's going to lose those states. So he needs to rework his campaign or find a better way to boost his poll numbers so he can at least win the popular vote. Because if you can win the popular vote as a Democrat, then you're doing fine. You are in the running to win the election. If you lose the popular vote, then you have some serious shit going on and you need to rework your stuff. Because if you are losing the popular vote as a Democrat ever since 2008, you have something going wrong with you. And that just shows that you cannot win the electoral college votes because you've shown that you can't even win the popular vote as a Democrat. So if Trump wins the popular vote as a Republican, then he most likely has a better shot than Biden at winning the electoral college because as a Democrat, you're pretty much required to win the popular vote because you're running as a Democrat. They have a stranglehold over the popular vote now. Biden isn't doing that well in that apartment, so he needs to rework his campaign because it keeps flipping between Trump plus one and then Biden plus one. Some of these are ties, some of these are Biden plus one, some of these are Trump plus four, and some of them are Biden plus six. They're all over the place, but the message is still the same. It is a close call for the popular vote and a close call for the general election. And Biden doesn't want that because if you are at a close call for a lot of these places, they're going to vote you based on what you did as president. And Biden doesn't really have that much to gloat about when during his presidential term because he isn't well liked in a lot of these states and he can't really rely on what he did as president because he didn't really do a lot of good things as president and he's more so wrapped up in a ton of scandals because of his son, which his son also will play a major part because even in 2020 when the Hunter Biden laptop story got leaked by the New York Times and it was made public by the Biden administration, a lot of people said that if they had known this, they wouldn't have voted for Joe Biden, which it was enough people that Trump would have won the election if those people didn't vote for Biden. So now that that's public, and there's a ton of other crap that Joe Biden has on his plate that isn't really working in favor of his campaign. You have Afghanistan, the fact that the economy isn't really doing that well, and gas prices, the Russia Ukraine war, which a lot of people don't generally like, and a lot of those people don't really like funneling a bunch of money to Ukraine to provoke Russia. So that's also going to be a major problem. And as an incumbent, you should be pulling a lot higher than this because, yeah, you were pulling at 7% when you were running as the relative outsider in the 2020 election and against an incumbent president. So you should be doing a lot better than when you were running first for a first term, because incumbent presidents, they're usually supposed to be polling a lot higher than they were in their first term, unless they're for one term presidents, which, given the fact that Biden can't even score above 1 point on average, yeah, he is looking like a one term president, and that's not really going to help Biden out a lot. So if you think Biden could win, leave that in the comments below. It's looking worse and worse by the day, but he still has a chance. If you think Trump could win, then leave that in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.